All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City of Cedar Falls Committee of the Whole meeting. I will now call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Schultz.
Here.
Latta. Nagel.
Here.
Hawbaker.
Here.
Fairbanks. Chrisman.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Council members Fairbanks and Latta are absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And that takes us to item number 1, water service materials discussion. And to kick us off, we've got Jamie Castle. Thank you, Jamie.
Mayor and Council, today we're going to be presenting about the water service materials that the City of Cedar Falls allows to residential and commercial properties. The reason we're bringing this forward is our adopted building codes allow a wide range of materials, while CFU's services, their policy only allows certain materials, and we've had a lot of questions as to why our code allows one thing, but CFU allows limited items. So we brought it to CFU, we had a discussion with them, and said that if we were going to limit materials, then we needed to amend the code to match that. So today we have Gerald Lukensmeyer to present what they recommend from CFU as the water service provider.
And then, so just to expound on that quick, the goal is to make sure what we're doing in our ordinances matches what we want to do with the enforcement of that. So we've kind of got in the presentation what's in there today, and then you've got a letter in front of you as well from Cedar Falls Utilities Board of Trustees kind of endorsing the recommendation Gerald will go through. Thank you, Gerald.
Thanks very much for having me. So we'll just start at the beginning. We'll talk about what a water service is in itself. And of course, that is the piping material that brings the water from the water main in the street to the home, to the business. It's owned in Cedar Falls by the homeowner. Not all communities are that way in Iowa, but the majority of communities, the homeowner owns the entirety. That includes the connection of the service to the water main out under the street and the right-of-way, the service piping over to a curb stop, which is located generally near the property line. It's got a tube that goes up to the ground so we can shut the water off and on as needed. The tubing continues on into the basement to the meter valve, which the homeowner can turn the water on and off, and then after that valve is the water meter. So again, they are the complete owner of that property. This would be a pictorial, water main over on your bottom right-hand corner. Then you've got the tubing, the piping going to the valve at the property line, on into the house, to the meter valve, and to the meter itself. And again, we put this in our customer newsletter quite often, but it's amazing how many people don't realize that they're responsible for the maintenance and they are the owners of that water service line in its entirety. And that's the same way with the sanitary sewer laterals here in Cedar Falls, owned by the property owners. Just a few of the towns that our ownership is the same as we are: Cedar Rapids, Cedar Falls, Waterloo, Waverly, Dubuque, Marion, Iowa City, Ames, Des Moines, Urbandale, West Des Moines, just a few. There are two major exceptions. Cedar Rapids, the water utility the city owns from the main to the curb stop at the property line, and then that's also true of Ankeny. They own from the water main to the property line. So those are the two major exceptions along the way. So past and current practices of water service materials, as Jamie has indicated, we use copper piping here in Cedar Falls, and this would be the actual materials. You again got the ductile iron water main over on the right-hand corner, copper piping to the curb stop, then copper piping into the house, to the shut-off, and to the meter. So that's the past and current practices. The development process in Cedar Falls includes the installation of the water main and water service stubs to the property. So the developer, through their engineers, through the city council practice, through the city staff practices, develops, designs, gets approval for its installation, and then their plumber, their contractor puts in the water mains and the water service stubs. So again, once it's approved by the city and by the Cedar Falls Utilities. Then we take over ownership of the water main, the large ductile iron pipe, and the developer owns the service stub until he sells the lot. And then at that time, the property owner takes over ownership. And either the builder's plumbing contractor then would continue that copper line from the curb stop into the house. So again, basically speaking, we've got copper pipe for the residential services. Then we do allow, if a service is over 100 feet long from the curb stop on, we review that with the owner or the plumber, and we will allow the use of high-density polyethylene plastics, polyethylene pipe. Again, the joints are one of the major issues of leaks, whether it's copper or plastic pipe, and 100 foot of copper is a whole lot heavier than 100 foot of polyethylene high-density pipe. So again, we review that and we'll allow that as is appropriately. And then the larger services above 2 inches in diameter would be ductile iron pipe, and that would be true of anything over 2 inches, generally speaking, and then any fire sprinkler line as well. So again, you've already heard reference to the plumbing code. It's the 2021 Uniform Plumbing Code that the city has adopted for the plumbers to use for the house design. There are 15 materials in that plumbing code that are accepted for the water service lines, and of those 15, 13 of them are also allowed to be used inside the house. Now again, there are more than 15 materials because there are several copper materials that qualify as copper. That would be a red copper, for instance, and a number of others. PEX, high-density polyethylene pipe. There's a high density and a medium density, and then PEX pipe itself, there are 4 different PEX types of pipe: PEX, PEX A, PEX B, and PEX C. So there's more than 15 different piping materials, but they're categorized in those 15 types of pipe. And there's the list of the 15, and then the 13 on the right are the house piping, and that's excluding high-density polyethylene. That was actually is built for outside underground installation. It's more rigid. And the other one then that's not allowed on the inside of the house is PVC polyvinyl chloride. So as Jamie has indicated, we're talking today because we have plumbers that occasionally will ask us, well, how come it's in the plumbing code and you won't let us use it? So the city staff asked us to do this review process, and that's what we're happy to be doing this evening, to kind of fill you in as to why we've chosen to use just those material, well, basically copper material. So the plumbers tell us that PEX is easier to use, and it is. They tell us there's a potential cost savings to themselves, and there is. They tell us that everybody else is using PEX, but they aren't. And then as well, currently it is in the Uniform Plumbing Code, so they are correct. So there are 3 concerns. 3 of them I'm not going to disagree with, but I will try and explain them as we go along. We've got some perspective issues, some concerns with going to PEX pipe. We definitely believe copper is a better material to use in the long term for the property owner. So I'll just go through the list, and then we will look at them individually a little bit closer. First of all, PEX pipe. There are 4 types, as I said, and those 4 types, all 4 of them are lacking in ultraviolet light protection, UV protection. The one instance there is no protection. The second version, there's 1 month, then there's a 3-month, and a 6-month UV protection in PEX pipe. HDPE, again, depending on the manufacturer, but it's between 7 and 10 years. So there's definitely a longer situation where you can use the HDPE pipe. We've been using HDPE for 40 years at the utilities for our gas piping. So again, copper and HDPE are known materials to us to use. So the proper trench preparation, the proper bedding material for PEX, Each manufacturer, some use sand, some use pea gravel. There's different manufacturers recommend or require actually different types of bedding material. And then, of course, there's the backfill type of material and the proper placement of that backfill material as well. All instances that can easily be short-circuited or shortcuts can be taken. And again, so our concern with PEX is that if you make the choice to go that direction, you need to add a number of things to your inspection list, and maybe even additional help. So again, that's a concern that we have as far as with the proper inspection of the installation of PEX material. There's also the issue of premature failure with PEX pipe, and we'll look at that a little bit later as well. That's due to chlorine interaction. And then there's the contaminated soils issue. There's also potential shorter service life with PEX pipe versus copper. And then there's underground locating issues. And then microplastics, which I'm sure you've all heard of in the environment now, are becoming a major issue. And that, of course, comes from all types of plastics, including plastic pipe. So we'll start with the cost comparison first. The 40 feet from the curb stop at the property line to the house, 30 to 40 feet. This is the basis for our cost estimate. With PEX pipe, you need to add the proper fittings, you need to add tracer wire, you need to add a anode, and of course the proper bedding material. So with a 3/4 inch service, there could be as much, perhaps even a little bit more, depending on what the pipe price is on the day. Could be as much as $188 savings for a 3/4 inch, and $315 savings for 1 inch. So there's no question there is the potential for savings to the contractor. The other communities issues, everybody else is doing it. That's not quite exactly correct. Cedar Falls, Cedar Rapids, Dubuque, Urbandale, West Des Moines are all copper service using communities. Again, basically for the same reasons that we do. There is a trend, more so right now, moving to PEX pipe, to a different pipe. Lots of pressure from the plumbers and the communities that are really seeing lots and lots of growth. A number of them are changing over. Waterloo in the past has been exactly the same as we are. They are now currently reviewing PEX not PEX, HDPE, high density polyethylene, or copper. And if you want to use the plastic, the polyethylene, then you've got to work with the plumbing board to get approval and approval from the waterworks. But again, they're not going to PEX. It was developed for the inside of the house and then decided that it could be used outside as well, whereas the HDPE pipe is outside underground materials from the beginning. Marion is copper to the curb stop, and then they allow copper or PEX. Ankeny is copper or HDPE. Des Moines is copper or PEX, and they use PEX A, a 200 PSI line. Again, you can get different thicknesses, and the thicker the pipe, the higher the pressure rating. So again, that's something that's important to note. You can, but you shouldn't just go grab PEX from the hardware store. You should be looking at what you're picking up, what you're using, even inside the house. And then Ames is copper or PEX, and Des Moines also. Both of those two communities on their reconstruction projects, which of course is an ongoing thing here in Cedar Falls, they're using copper water services to the property line. So anything in the right-of-way in connection with their reconstruction projects, they're using copper pipe. So PEX pipe and soil contamination. Again, there's a warning on every piece of, every coil of PEX pipe or straight length that you buy. And that warning says, do not install PEX pipe in contaminated soil or groundwater conditions. Contaminants may damage the pipe's integrity, resulting in pipe failure. Contaminants may also permeate through the pipe affecting drinking water safety and resulting in illness. So it's definitely affected by what's in the ground, especially organic materials. The compounds such as fuels, solvents, pesticides, termiticides, all of those should be kept away from PEX when it's in storage, when it's being transported, when it's being installed. For instance, petroleum-based sealants versus non-petroleum-based. So if the plumber happens to grab the wrong tube, seals where that PEX pipe comes through the concrete floor or through the concrete wall, you've got a failure point that's going to be taking place. So another inspection that should be made by the inspecting authority. So when you look at that, the cost savings, it's likely to be gone or mostly gone by the time you do the additional inspections that should be done, and then as well with the inspections that are needed. There are 77 LUST sites, leaking underground storage tank sites in Cedar Falls. Those all need to be noted and reviewed. There's another 13 or more, 16 or more rather, chemical storage or hazardous waste sites. And there are also numerous fuel oil tanks that were done in connection with home heating that were just simply buried in place. So the ground conditions need to be noted. They need to be permitted to be sure that they're not installing HDPE pipe for that matter, or PEX pipe. So we'll move on to material lifespans. Here in Cedar Falls, we've got copper that's been in service for more than 70 years. 50 to 70 years is a common life expectancy and longer. PEX pipe is designed for 30 to 50 years. That's on current standards and testing. HDPE pipe is designed for 50 plus years, and they're projecting it with their testing now that some of it will actually last over 100 years. So again, you've got a life expectancy benefit with copper pipe that you don't have with the PEX material. Big issue here in Cedar Falls, maybe the biggest issue, is locating. Cedar Falls, as far as I know, is the only community in Iowa that locates privately owned water services from the water main to the house or to the business. And it's been a long-standing practice for us. We are trying to protect the public. We're trying to protect contractors. And of course, we do our share of digging as well. So we do locating of the customer-owned water piping at no cost to the customer currently. Copper piping, we walk up to the house, connect a locating machine to the outside faucet, and we're on the way. It's just a matter of a few moments and we're able to locate that copper water service. The newer houses with inside PEX, if work has been done correctly and they've put the tracer wire inside the house from the water meter over to the electric meter, then we can go grab that electric. We can connect to the tracer wire and trace it out as well. But again, now we're going around the house to wherever the electric meter is at, or if it didn't get put in where it should have been put in, then we're trying to find that locate. And of course, then that becomes compounded if it's PEX all the way outside and PEX on the inside. There's that added cost that we talked about, the added installation. But again, it's a time-consuming situation. Most of the communities, and we'll just look at the list up there as you can read through that, most communities are no longer taking the time because it's too time-consuming, too expensive to locate, to take the time to locate. So Waterloo, with fiber optics going in Waterloo right now, they're not doing any water service locating. They don't have the time. They don't have the number of locators. But in the past, they located if and when they had time for the customer. Marion will still attempt to locate a water service if they have time, but they're same situation that Waterloo is in. It's just cities are just too busy now with expansion and that type of things that are going on. Ames, they'll do a courtesy locate if time permits. They don't do PEX or plastics. Again, they're looking for the simplest, easiest way to locate, and there are instances where they can't locate because of the tracer wire conditions. Ankeny owns the water service to the curb stop, and that's all they will mark. Cedar Rapids owns and marks only to the curb stop. Urbandale will, again, mark only to the curb stop. Des Moines will mark the water tap and the curb stop location. West Des Moines is not doing any locating, and Dubuque is the same situation. So the majority of communities now are no longer doing locates. And again, that's what we do, and we'd like to keep doing that. But we're hearing Des Moines, for instance, requires an inspection of the trench and the installation and the tracer wire, including a continuity check to be sure that the wire is actually using. That's before it's backfilled. After it's backfilled, then the plumber is again required to call the waterworks or the city. I'm not sure which one of the two does the actual inspection. I think it's the city. And then they actually check continuity after the backfilling is done to be sure that it's up and operational. But even though all that testing's been done, Des Moines does not offer that locating, but they want to be sure that it's getting done so the contractor can connect their own equipment to do locating. Moving on to microplastics, that's a new issue we're being faced with, and this statement comes from the January 25th, 2023 article from the National Library of Medicine magazine. It's from an article entitled "Microplastics: A Real Global Threat for the Environment, for Food Safety." And this was a state-of-art review, and just grabbed one sentence out of there. Microplastics are small plastic particles that come from degradation of plastics. That includes your bottled water, that includes all plastics, and it includes plastic pipes as well. And they are now being found everywhere in the environment. They can be found in air. They're actually finding it in drinking water already, and food that we eat, even in lakes, rivers, and streams, and they're all around us. So there are numerous studies being done by colleges and by manufacturing companies with regards to the microplastics. And I'm suspecting that it won't be too long, and that water utilities will also then have to start testing for microplastics along with everything else that we test for. So perhaps a real coming threat, maybe the largest threat. So we'll go back to the UPC and just let you know, in my estimation, and I think I'm correct on this, that the UPC only provides the absolute minimum for the materials, for the labor, for the installation, for the repair of plumbing systems. And additional standards really need to be in place that talk about the UV protection, talk about the pressure ratings, talk about wall thicknesses, and especially UV resistance. And again, that should be specified in the plumbing code. It's not currently. However, CFU and Cedar Falls, we both in our construction standards do specify more detailed than what the plumbing code does. So Cedar Falls uses the 2023 SUDA standards for public improvements, and that SUDA standards does not permit for PEX piping, but it does say that if a city or community wants to use PEX, that's something that they can do, but the engineers and the designers of the SUDAs themselves have said HDPE or copper pipe would be the only appropriate things to use, especially in the city right away where SUDAS is mainly used for specifications. And then our own standards, we do specify more specifically, more information, wall thickness, SDR ratings, pressure ratings, and that type of thing in our specs. So if you decide to go with PEX again, I would encourage you to beef up what's in the UPC rather than just getting 0 UV protection and 100 PSI pipe and thin wall. You know, look at getting something that will last longer time for the customer. And of course, our recommendation is that it would be the copper material. So, quick conclusion here: the cost savings is minimal compared to what the extra costs that are likely to be incurred for inspection and permitting. There's a UV contamination issue. There's installation issues with additional inspection and additional permitting. There's underground contaminated soils issue, service life issue, microplastics potential issues, and then the locating issue, which we feel strongly we'd like to continue that. But hearing the difficulty that Ames and Des Moines are having with PEX, with the tracer wire, the likelihood that we would continue the PEX portion would probably will end up having to go the same way that other communities are going. So our recommendation, and what you've got from the board that they voted on this past week, would be to continue the current program with the city adopting the current UPC with amended service materials limited to copper, high-density polyethylene, and ductile iron pipe. Copper to be the primary materials for services 2-inch and less in diameter. HDP allowed with review for services 2-inch and less in diameter that are more than 100 foot in length after the curb stop. And then amend the current UPC table 604, which we'll show you on the next slide. And then also amend section 1210, excuse me. That's the section with regards to anode or the tracer wire. The UPC allows for 14 gauge wire. Most every place, I think every place else is using at least a 12 gauge, and some of them using a special coating for tracer wire. And again, that 12 gauge gives more tensile strength and gives a longer service life. So that would be another recommendation that we are making and supported by the board. So table 604 would show just the three materials: copper and copper alloys, ductile iron, and HDPE. I've just left the water distribution, the house piping on there as well, but I could throw out my 2 cents worth that you might want to consider reducing some of those in that list that you aren't using anyway, that you're not familiar with inspecting. But again, that's a city choice. So just to let you know as well that there are currently class action suits that either are taking place or have been settled. June of this past year, there's a pending class action suit. It's now discontinued pipe. It was red, white, and blue, 3 different colors, Aqua PEX pipe manufactured by Uponor, and they were found to be prone to oxidation and can fail within 3 to 10 years after installation. Uponor PEX lawsuit states that the company's pipes were made from polyethylene, which was vulnerable to oxidation and as a result can degrade prematurely. So that's a class action suit that is just getting started. NIBSCO, their $43.5 million nationwide settlement was done, and same problem there: PEX tubing and brass fittings and clamp failures. And then there's also allegations currently with the Zern manufacturing, again, premature failures, inadequate testing, and warnings to customers. So 3 of those that are coming, and perhaps more depending on how durability of PEX lasts. So questions and answers along the way. But I got a couple of other things that I'd like to just throw out here with regards to the class action suits that are taking place. Cedar Falls Utilities, by a public vote, came into being in 1959. Prior to that, the city had determined that it would be galvanized pipe or copper pipe. Lead was a very common pipe at that time. There's lead mines in Dubuque, lots of lead services in Dubuque and other communities that have lead services. The foresight of the city at that time, we don't have any lead services. It's estimated that the cost of lead service replacement could be as high as $90 billion in the United States. We don't have any because somebody decided, hey, let's do something better than what the standard said, and lead pipe was in the plumbing code at that time, but they chose not to use it. I'm not sure what the reasoning was, but obviously we've saved the customers and ourselves lots of money. Polybutylene, BP, was a very common product that Shell manufactured as polybutylene material in the 70s and 80s. And again, that was found to be prone to failure. And so a class action settlement took place, $950 million. And again, with the keeping that Cedar Falls chose to do, following the city's picture of not just letting any material in, even though they're in the plumbing code, which polybutylene pipe was in the plumbing code. Again, citizens here haven't had to worry about having to replace their piping because of premature failure. So again, just a couple pictures that try to paint a picture here as to why I think that the copper, yes, it may be a little bit more expensive, but in the long run, it's going to be a pipe that serves the customer for a longer period of time. I can put the recommendations again up there if you want to see them, while I'll answer any questions or have some discussion about what we've been talking about.
All right, thank you, Gerald. And with that, I'll open up to questions, comments, conversation from council.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the information and understand where you're coming from. I don't know if from my experience, the pricing has been far wider than what you've shown. So I don't know what you use for comparison data. I found the PECs to be almost 5 times less expensive. But again,
Currently $2 for PEX and $14 per foot for copper.
so $2 to 14.
14, 7 times difference.
Okay.
But you've got to add the backfill material, you've got to add the copper tracer wire, the anode, and the proper installation. So again, that cost is,
Okay, that helps me
disappears.
understand a little further on how your price comparison
yep.
goes.
And so you've got 40 feet, that's not a whole lot of dollars for a $12 difference.
So what have you found? Have we had incidents where a installation of a PEX has been in and you've went there and not hooked up, or?
We haven't, because we don't have PEX installed, generally speaking, but the other communities are seeing the failure of the tracer wire, basically improper installation.
As part of for why we wanted to get this clarified between CFU and us is, under my understanding, is our building code is what regulates what's allowed. That's not what we've been doing in practice, but and that's been a back and forth with working with CFU and staff, and really what's being enforced should be what's in our code. So we just want to make sure going forward, if we leave it as it is, really that's direction to say going forward, we do want what's in there to be allowed, and we would expect what's being forced is what is in the code. Or, per the recommendation, changing it to reflect only allowing what we've currently been doing in practice. So that weirdness of leaving it as is actually changes how we've been enforcing. Changing it leaves it as it is, if that makes sense. From an enforcement standpoint. I know, Craig, you're looking at me like, what does that mean?
I have no idea what
So essentially right now, what is in the code does allow all of the 15 material types. However, in practice, what CFU has been, so CFU does the inspections on the water service lines, not us.
Right.
So in practice, they have not been allowing these materials.
Right.
So we want to make sure going forward, what we're doing in practice matches what the building code allows. So if we leave it as it is with the current 15 materials and we make no changes, we would go to allowing all the material types, PEX, HDPE, everything in there. Or, per the proposal of CFU, if we change it to restrict that and change it to only allow for the copper, HDPE in those circumstances, that would align with how we've been enforcing, and we would continue to enforce the inspections like that.
I guess, Mr. Mayor,
Yep,
I guess my basic question is who's responsible for the line from the pay box to the house?
Customer,
That would be the customer.
yes.
All of these applications are acceptable. You've mentioned many reasons why they may not, but I know it's been a push for a long time to switch from the pay box to the house to be of a different material that is being used. And since those responsibilities are with the homeowner, wouldn't it be acceptable to let them make that decision if they want those responsibilities? And I don't know much about the tracer wire, about the not holding up. I guess I don't understand that one, but in any case, maybe the solution is to not locate them.
Yep, and that's certainly likelihood
See
from
a number of
utilities. but-
situations, and I, just knowing in my career how it's been an issue for the water services and stuff, when they get hit and stuff like that, it's still going to be the homeowner's responsibility, and maybe as a city, we don't want to continue to take on that responsibility and let the homeowner choose if they want to save some dollars on it. The other issue that I have with copper and during construction is it's probably one of the number one hit things for vandalism, to cut the copper off during construction and let the water just run. If we didn't have that, maybe that wouldn't happen. I'm not talking about from an environmental standpoint or anything like that. And yes, I'm aware of the water bottle issue and microplastics that exists. So that's a consideration too. I don't know enough about the other materials other than PEX that we normally use. And if PEX is bad in a water service, why would we allow it inside? In a house, if PEX is a bad situation inside? What would be different? I guess I don't understand that one.
So I did, oh, go ahead, Aaron.
From microplastics.
Right. I mean, if, Craig, from the homes that you've built and the homes that I've seen being built, PEX inside the homes are predominantly what are used.
Yep,
And,
definitely.
So it's we're using it, and we're putting a lot of faith into it, so.
Yep. And it's great material inside the house. Now, again, I can't speak for microplastics because it could be in 10 or 15 years, we'll be ripping it all out. I don't know. Or 20 years.
Sure.
Right now, inside, it's a great, you don't have to put elbows on it. You can just bend it nicely. You can put a hot pipe, each bathroom can have its own piping, so you've got almost instant hot water. And I'm not saying it's not a good product, but for outside, it was really a material developed for inside the house. And then, it's easy to use, let's put it outside. They did do some minor modification, but again, it was not like HDP manufactured to be installed outside. There's tensile strength difference. It's rigid. It's more strength as far as being crushed. That's one of the reasons why Cedar uses copper out in the right-of-way heavy equipment during construction. It's just a stronger material. So again, there's inside the house. I'm not going to say because there's no cost comparison between copper piping inside the house and PEX piping inside the house. You can't hardly afford to do a copper piping job inside the house. But for 40-foot outside, long-term to the customer, to the homeowner, and I know, Craig, you're talking homeowners. How many homeowners choose what material? The plumber and the builder of their own personal house. Otherwise, homeowners don't get a choice. It's whatever the builder uses. So I have to argue about, we're not helping the customer, we're helping the plumber. And I call them customers, you call them residents along the way, so we're a little bit different, but same group of people we're looking at. And to them, long-term locating, we're trying to protect those few times that they get dug into. And it's something, yes, we take that liability, but again, we're there for the water, for the electric, we're there out for the water in the street, so it's just something we've been doing, but there are other people at the utilities that question my sanity sometimes as to why we keep doing that. And someday that will change, but I'm sure it will change if PEX is permitted, or areas where there are tracer wires.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Thank you for the information and making it easy to understand. I, for one, appreciate the advocacy, is what I'm going to call it, from CFU. I happen to live with a pipe fitter plumber who's done it for the last 25 years. And this weekend, as I was reviewing for today, I just asked him, what would he advocate for? And his response was, PEX is for inside, copper is for outside. And kind of what you just said. If I didn't have, our main broke, or whatever, the pipe to our house broke one time, and we had Young's come over and fix it, and, you know, Chris takes care of all that stuff. I don't have to think about anything. And obviously, the standard is copper. But if I didn't have Chris, I wouldn't even know to think about any of those things. So I guess I appreciate that I'm being looked out for by our municipal utility. And then kind of a side note, if this is a couple years back, he made the comment, because he works, you know, Cedar Falls and around Northeast Iowa, and he made the comment how, you know, sometimes when there's the lack of inspections from city to city, he said lack of inspection. And he was talking about here, he's like, Cedar Falls has a high standard, and as a, I'm paraphrasing him, but basically as a professional and as a citizen, he appreciates that because you're getting a better quality end product because of the thought and inspection that goes into it. And in the end, yeah, I do feel like I get it. The builder is, they've got to make money. But that's just one part of the story. That house is somebody's house for decades. And, you know, now it was not cheap to fix that leak. And knowing that I should hopefully not have to do that again in my time in that house, that is a savings. I mean, I don't even know if that's the peace of mind and whatever I would have saved. I mean, I don't even know that it's comparable. So I'd like to make the motion. Are we looking for a motion?
Yeah, we will need a motion, yep, so you can.
Make a motion to go with the recommendations to change our official, I guess, code to match what we're currently doing so that it's documented on paper.
Second.
Motion seconded and continued discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead.
Personally, I'd like more information about what the costs actually might be, if we had some comparison costs on what it would be to use hard pipe or PEX versus the copper. You know, we try to cover every emergency, everything that could possibly ever happen, and that's fine. The other problem is every little bit just continues to add to the price of the house, and you can talk about builders and developers just being greedy.
I didn't say greedy.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't mean you said that. But ultimately, it becomes a real problem between the homeowner and the person wanting to build a house about why it costs so much. And builders have to sharpen their pencil every day to try to find ways. And it may not seem like in the numbers and the calculations that you had that it's very much, although I would tend to agree that it's more than that in my estimation and what my plumbers have been telling me. But sure, you can go with stay with the top of the line, but I see other cities are also moving away from it, and there may be issues. I don't doubt that there wouldn't be exceptions, but I'm not sure that I understand that it's worth the extra effort. And in my opinion, is that the homeowners are very, very much aware of what products are going into their house, and they are being very active in what goes into their house, and it should be their choice. If it's their responsibility to pay for it, it should be their choice. But I just would like to see more work done before we make a decision.
Thank you, Counselor. And I will say, just for everyone knowing the options, there is the option too, if we wanted more information before making a decision, we can ask for more. Not saying you have to, but just know we don't have to make a decision tonight. If you felt there was more information you'd like us to put together, get more cost information, anything like that, it's always an option.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
I have a quick question. I kind of understand where Mr. Fairbanks is going a little bit, but I don't really believe that this is just an issue related to costs or the choices of the home builder and the people buying it. To solve a lot of the problems that you're talking about, we would have to update our real estate disclosures, if you ask me, so that people that bought a house down the road that had PEX versus copper, which should know that that's what they're buying. I think it would have changed the inspection process, but correct me if I'm wrong, unfortunately having to have replaced my water line and learned the painful lesson that I owned it to the street, there is actually a public interest in that safety, because if I have, if my water line breaks and I'm responsible up to the main, then it is going to affect the soil underneath that street or wherever it's located, underneath the sidewalk. And so it will affect public property, given the fact that that piece of pipe that I own goes on to public property, right?
That's correct.
And that would be a concern for the utility and our city as well. I think in much the same way why we have the uniform building code and things like that, we want to try to minimize the risk of fire, because the response to a fire is not just the loss of property for the property owner, but we have to engage our firefighters and the resources of the city. So I tend to disagree that it's simply an issue between the homeowner and the builder.
And your perspective is exactly right with the inspections.
Yeah.
And acknowledgement through your realtor. Homes with PB pipe have to tell that to a prospective purchaser.
I think that we have lead paint disclosures and things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so.
Yes.
Mayor, I guess the one point then is a kind of with commenting on Councilor Haubaker's note is there, pretty much that table you presented made it look like anybody from the curb stop back to the main's copper anyway, even in the cities that are allowing PECs, correct?
The changes, the new housing construction in many of these cities, they are some going to PECs, some going to HDPE. And if you're going to make a change, I'm still saying use copper, but if you're going to make a change, go to HDPE. It was pipe that was made specifically to be buried.
No, but I think what I'm asking is pretty much every one of those communities that is allowing something else still requires copper from the curb stop back to the main?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, yeah.
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 Yes.
Gerald, maybe you or anyone else here, does anyone know the cost differential on the HDPE versus copper?
It's depending on what, and when I say HDPE, we specify 2 brands because we believe that those are the best brands, Blue Core, and I forget what the name of the other one is. But it's a little bit more expensive than PEX, but considerably less than copper.
Does it have a built-in tracer, or you have to add the 14-gauge wire?
There are some that actually have it built in, but it becomes very expensive, so it's all added.
Does the HDPE still require the special trench bedding and all those things?
Not to the extent that PEX does because of its rigidity and its tensile strength.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, Gerald. Appreciate the presentation and always like learning something new. So this is good information. I am personally hugely in support of the recommendation from CFU and from their Board of Trustees. I think we are fortunate to have our own municipal utilities. They are the experts. And I don't think that there is any intent to do something that would hold up or would harm our citizens or make them have to pay more money. I think this is really in their best interest. And otherwise, I wouldn't see a reason for having a different opinion. I also, to what Councilwoman Dunn was saying, that if someone told me this is what you're supposed to do, and they were a professional, I would just say, great. I would not ask why. When it comes to materials, I just don't think that's something that a lot of people are asking. And I do see, people who, after their home is built, then they might think to themselves, oh, why did I go that route? That hindsight's 2020. Oh, now I have a problem. Now I am looking into this. And certainly there are people who do choose to know everything about what's going into their home, and that's really admirable. But I don't think that's the standard for most. And if you're building your home, you're trusting your builder, and that's what you should do. And so I just think we should go with the recommendation. We have a history of following the recommendations of CFU and it being to our benefit. So that would be my vote.
Thank you, Counselor.
And I can address Craig's issue. You can easily go out and find a cheaper price for PEX than what I'm showing. I didn't go to the PEX people, and I didn't go to the copper people. I tried to pick plumbers that do both. And basically, it's pretty much 40-foot piece of copper. You don't have to do anything with it. There's no joints, there's no elbows. It's a 40-foot piece of PEX, so it's a pipe-to-pipe difference. It's the tracer wire, it's the bedding, and so you're likely going to find better prices than what I have on there, but it's a perspective as far as what the plumber likes to use, and they like to use PEX.
Yeah. Okay, let me make one comment. My question isn't about whether this is right or wrong.
Yeah.
My question is one of the reasons that I'm even here serving on this council is the immense amount of extra costs that we never consider anything that might be more affordable to a customer so we can build more affordable homes. It's not about whether this is whether we have to have the diamond category of stuff. It's like what will do the job get the same results and without a negligible difference in risk. That's all it's about. It's just one little portion of the cost of building homes, which I am very concerned about. And so that's where I come from, is that we need to find ways to find alternative solutions and be open-minded to make those things happen if possible. It has nothing to do with whether the quality. Now, it was addressed that was no matter what happens, you're still going to require copper from the main to the pay box, correct? So the only section in the pay box is on the customer's property if development's done right.
Yep.
And then the rest of it goes in. So that's the only reason I bring it up, is that it's like another thing in the property is that it's a choice.
And the city technically can make it all the way to the water main. I mean, that is the authority of the plumbing code.
Right.
But again, the SUDAS and the construction, the people that are normally out in the street, limit it to HDPE or copper.
Yeah. And I don't know enough about HDPE at this moment to make a decision. I'm only familiar with PACs, but that's something that I'd like to research if that's a possibility. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Good information.
And I don't want anybody to think we've already had 2 council folks that have said that they've had copper services that leaks. I'm not saying copper does not leak. Joints are the weakest spot, and it's the weakest spot in PEX, and it's the weakest spot in the copper pipe. So, you know, when your service starts to leak, don't say that he said it would never leak.
My houses have always been over 100 years old, so it's
Yes.
okay.
But the other thing is, what you want to do is check your insurance policy. You've seen the mailers that come to you about getting, they can't call it insurance because then they upset federal or state codes, but there are warranty companies that you can spend $12, $15, $7 to $10 a month, and then when your service leaks, they'll hire the plumber to come in and fix it. I'm not a salesman for insurance companies, but it's going to sound like it. You can get that policy in your homeowner's insurance for less money and better coverage. So if you don't, I advise all of you to look at your homeowner's insurance and add that, because it'll not only cover the water service, it'll cover your sanitary sewer service and other things.
Thank you,
And
Thank you.
We're all going home to check.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go for it.
So one of the things I kind of think about, well, a couple things. First of all, obviously cost of building a home and maintaining a home is, I think, forefront on most of our minds. A few years back, someone reached out, I don't know if it was in this role, somebody reached out, it was with concern of, they had just moved into a new house and they were reaching out to council about concern with some kind of building code because, you know, they're in this new house, but they're sitting in their living room in the wintertime and the wind's blowing and the curtains are blowing because the windows, so they want to know why we, the city, allowed builders to build with windows like that. Anyway, I guess it kind of goes back to people trust. People trust that, I bought a new house or I built a new house and but obviously there's a whole wide variety of quality there. It's kind of like when I, I buy the cheap toilet paper, the cheap paper towels. Does that really save me any money in the end? I can tell you as a woman, it does not. So
I can't play as a woman because there's granted, you probably clean more.
watching my boys. Anyway,
I say that knowing you
what
and your husband.
Well, what I'm getting at is, I understand. I don't want anybody to think that I don't think about the cost of building or maintaining a home, but I also think about the security and what that little bit more money in the end is going to get me. And if it gets me 50 to 70 years versus 30 to 50, was it really worth? It also, all the things that go in, because the fittings, and I heard this weekend, I heard something about brazing and about how that's, can cause a weak spot and all these things. So I think, I just want to make comment that I don't know are we really saving money, or is it the build that's saving money? But in the end, is it really worth it to the folks that live here that we're hoping to advocate for?
And just to throw my 2 cents in, a couple of the things I had were, one, I wanted to know staff's opinion, and we kind of talked, and generally our opinion has been that that's why we have standardized codes. We trust that those are based on solid information of why these materials are allowed. But I think it really does come down to that lifetime value question. Like, it is going to add cost up front on a home, and we have to know that that's going to impact the cost. Well, it's already impacting the cost, but would continue to impact the cost of housing. And it's really I think in my opinion, a question about is the lifetime value of the increased performance of that product worth what that upfront cost differential is. And I can play I'm the mayor card, I don't vote. I'm going to lean on your guys' expertise as the voting body to make that decision.
Well, I think it's economical and very efficient inside the house. The questions I've been asking have been really leaning towards what's the acceptable outside the house. And he's not even looking, he's really convinced me that the copper is, in the long run, probably our most reliable and durable, and potentially, I'd like to be here in 50 years to tell you that it was the safest as well, but we'll see how that works out. So
We can make you a plaque or something.
make me, so we'll do that.
And let me tell you, get myself in trouble here. When he came to work with us here not too long ago, when this discussion came up, he was not a copper person.
Oh,
So you're drinking the Kool-Aid.
yeah.
So I hope I'm not in trouble, but after a discussion, reviewing everything, he's here tonight, supporting what I'm saying and what the board believes as well.
And if you feel the need to speak for yourself, you're welcome to come up to the mic. Well, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other conversation, discussion from council? Otherwise, seeing none, so all in favor of going forward with the recommendations as outlined in CFU's presentation, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed.
No?
So 5-1 and 1 absent. All right, that motion does carry, so that will give direction to staff. We'll work on doing the actual amendment write-up and everything so that we can bring that back to council for review and approval at a later date. And I think at this point then, since we are moving in that direction, we'll continue enforcing as has been enforced to this point, and stay in the same practice. So any other discussion before we move on to item 2?
One question. You mentioned HDPE pipe. Is that Is that what is that not part of it, or it isn't part of it?
Also, I think it was for anything service lines over 100 feet, under
From the
2
curbs up,
inches.
yeah.
Over 100 feet?
Yep, it would still be allowed.
Okay.
So in situations where I'm guessing probably copper's not feasible.
Yeah, and then you end up with joints, and the joints are the problem. And with the HDP, you can buy a 200-foot coil, I mean, you can buy a 500-foot coil, and you don't have the joint, so that's what we're looking to avoid.
Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Otherwise,
much.
thank you, Gerald. Thank you guys for the work on it. And that moves us to item number 2, Middle Cedar Watershed Presentation. And to present on that, we have the chair of the group. Are you coming up first? Mary Beth Stevenson. So thank you guys. And just quick preface, this kind of is a just informational presentation based on some conversations we've had around what work that's being done in the Cedar River watershed. Kind of that big picture conversation. It was what are we doing as a state and as a region to look at water quality with the rivers, streams, creeks, everything in between. And as well as some of the things we're doing as a city within that to kind of play our part in helping to protect some of that watershed. So thank you, Mary Beth.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the council for providing us with some time to speak with you. My name's Mary Beth Stevenson, and as was said, I am the chair of the Middle Cedar Watershed Management Authority, and I've been in that role for a couple of years now, and just really wanted to come here tonight to share some information about some of the activities we've been up to. And are you guys hearing feedback? Do I need to stand back a little?
Oh, you're
Thank you.
good.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
It echoes like right to that spot.
Oh,
so
is that
you
what
might
it is?
hear
Okay.
the echo.
Yeah. So yeah, we just wanted to share a little bit about what we've been up to over the past several years, and just really extend our sincere appreciation for the support that Cedar Falls has provided to us over the years. I am joined here tonight by Alyssa Comer, who works for the East Central Iowa Council of Governments, and she's going to share a little bit of information, and also, of course, Maria Perez, who serves as our treasurer and has been a great resource to us. And she also is going to share a little bit of information. So we'll do a little tag team here in a moment. Okay, so we've covered introductions. I wanted to start off just by first explaining what a watershed management authority is. It's kind of a mouthful, so I'll refer to it as a WMA. I do accidentally throw out a lot of acronyms, so just want to make sure I'm addressing those up front. But for those of you who may not know, a watershed management authority is a formal agreement. It's an intergovernmental cooperative agreement, 28E, between 2 or more political subdivisions within the same watershed. So we have part of our WMAs, the cities, the counties, and the soil and water conservation districts. They all become part of our group. Membership in our WMAs is completely voluntary. Everyone was given an invitation to participate, and they were able to say whether or not they were interested in participating. So for us, and we'll cover the history here in a moment, but for us, that formation happened back in 2015. So WMAs were established really looking at how we can work together as communities to better cooperate across jurisdictions to address those issues of water quality and flooding. So as a matter of fact, WMAs came about after the catastrophic 2008 flood, a life-changing event for many of you. Just a quick show of hands, how many people here were affected personally by the 2008 floods? So,
Does
yeah.
sandbagging count for
Yes, it does absolutely count. There's some sweat equity in there, absolutely. So yeah, I think we all really kind of personally understand why that event was so monumental for Iowa. So the Iowa legislature back in 2010 passed this legislation, just really allowing for cooperation at the watershed scale. So the first WMAs were formed back in 2013. There were 6 that originally formed. It became such a successful model for watershed cooperation that now we're up to nearly 30 WMAs across the state of Iowa. So really just a testament to how much power we've been able to have as communities to just work together, roll our sleeves up, sit down across the table from one another and discuss our shared challenges and issues, and work together to find cooperative solutions. So the Middle Cedar WMA, we got started back in 2015. And again, the flooding was a major concern of ours, water quality. Around that time, there was just a lot of emphasis on the partnership approach and how we can better pool our resources to just be more strategic in how we addressed those issues. One of the drivers for us forming was participation in a project called the Iowa Watershed Approach. So that project was a statewide program. It received nearly $100 million in federal funding towards recovery efforts. And so we received a grant as part of that. The Middle Cedar was one of several other WMAs that was a part of that. And there were quite a few state agencies involved as well. But as a result of that, we put in a lot of successful projects, really did some great work. So I'm going to turn over to Alyssa now to just give you a little bit more background.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Thanks, Mary Beth. My name is Alyssa Comer. I work for the East Central Iowa Council of Governments, also known as ECCOG. And we provide administration services to the Middle Cedar WMA as well as acting as their fiscal agent. So on this slide here, you can see a map of the Middle Cedar watershed as well as all of the members that are signed on to our 28E agreement. So those are all the cities and counties and not soil and water conservation districts, but the cities and counties here, and you'll see a number next to that, and that it comes from the board-approved contribution formula. So annually, the Middle Cedar Watershed Management Authority has a $50,000 fundraising goal, which helps to sustain and support projects that are related to implementing the Iowa Watershed Approach plan that we have. So the budget request that you see, that number is formulated by two stakes in the watershed, which is population and then area in acres within the Middle Cedar watershed. So again, we are very thankful for the continued support that Cedar Falls provides to the watershed. We know budgets are tight, so we are very grateful that you continue to think of us and contribute to the watershed. So.
I would say thank you guys for the work you do, because for that amount of money, it's a very big issue.
Well, and I appreciate that because leveraging is an important aspect of what we try to accomplish. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that leveraging here in a couple more slides. But I did want to touch a little bit on our watershed management plan. Alyssa mentioned that we were able to develop a watershed plan using some funding that we got from that federal project. And the watershed management plan is really kind of our guiding document for how we strategically approach the watershed implementation strategies. So the document itself, we do have copies here available for anybody who's interested in receiving that. We'll leave a few here with Chase. And what it does is it kind of breaks down the watershed into the overall issues that we're facing in terms of both water quality and flood challenges. And it puts together an overall implementation schedule for ideal projects that we would like to take on to address those challenges in kind of a strategic fashion. So it put a lot of effort as a WMA board into identifying our high priority areas, making recommendations that we received a lot of feedback from our member entities on, and then just developing those strategies, knowing what works in the watershed. So what you're seeing here is a map of the Middle Cedar watershed, and those colored areas represent those high priority watersheds. And the high priority watersheds were selected for a variety of factors. It could be concerns with source water protection, flood issues. I think also bacteria contamination was one of the issues as well, and streams identified as impaired by Iowa DNR. Those were also listed on there. So you can see here that Cedar Falls Waterloo area, we actually have quite a few of our high priority watersheds overlapping with the community. So really just shows that we're really looking to invest and support in the community and just kind of work together on that. So as far as accomplishments, we have been able to achieve quite a few projects on the ground. Our Iowa Watershed Approach project, we invested $13 million on flood mitigation and water quality projects throughout the Middle Cedar watershed. So we do have a couple of publications as well that kind of outline some of those achievements. So I won't go too far into detail here this evening, but would love for you to just take a look at those and know that we hope to accomplish more of those. So other kind of recent grants that we've had, the Iowa Watershed Approach wrapped up back in 2020. The pandemic happened, for those of you who maybe forgot about that little thing. But the pandemic really kind of slowed us up a little bit just in terms of like not being able to meet and just kind of not having grants as active. So we've been spending the past couple of years ramping up in terms of what grants did we want to go for and what activities did we want to take on. So we've been successful over the past 2 years. We worked with the Blackhawk Soil and Water Conservation District on a farmer-to-farmer grant through Iowa Department of Natural Resources, and we were awarded that project. And so right now what we're doing is working with the SWCD on conducting listening sessions geared more towards urban agriculture. So just trying to get a handle on what the needs are for urban agriculture growers, understand what water quality needs they have, and how we can support them a little bit better with their farms. So Paula Trujillo Lopez is the coordinator for that project, and she's employed at the SWCD office. And the WMA, we are providing $10,000 per year to support Paula's salary and the project overall. So the other really successful and great news that I want to share is another EPA grant that we've gotten. This one, we're just kind of in the very early stages of kicking this project off. We were awarded $1.3 million by EPA, and that's through their farmer-to-farmer grant. And the focus is really on water quality improvement and also on research and demonstration of innovative practices. So our focus for this project is on demonstrating how natural infrastructure can be really beneficial in water quality and flood mitigation, providing a lot of downstream benefits. So we're going to be evaluating a lot of natural infrastructure opportunities, and we have a commitment from the Iowa Department of Ag and Land Stewardship to put a couple $1 million towards actual on-the-ground implementation of projects. So it's a 3-year project. We're in the process of hiring a watershed coordinator as we speak, and that person will really kind of be sort of the face of the project. We'll be working with farmer cooperators across the watershed, just testing out and demonstrating different ag practices. And I'm going to pass it over to Maria.
Okay, so Mary Beth was saying how important leverage was, and we just asked for a grant, for a couple grants, and got it, like we just learned on Friday, that we had $500,000 for turning this detention basin in Cornflower and Green Hill. We're gonna turn that into a stormwater wetland, like an urban stormwater wetland. And I'm really excited about the project, but part of our partnership with the Watershed Management Authority was really important because part of the grants were about education. And what they're going to do, or what we're going to do, because we're part of the WMA, is really have like a field day. And there's also a symposium planned for 2028 that the WMA is going to do as part of the grant Mary Beth was talking about, and that we're going to feature this project there. So this is really good for us, like this partnership, and really like the $3,000 that we've been investing, whatever, it results in a lot of in opportunities for us. One thing that Mary Beth hasn't mentioned, but it's like we are all like in the WMA where like it's my job. My job is not being in the WMA, right? It's represent the city, and Mary Beth has her other job and whatever. So there's nobody doing it. So having this grant that we just that Mary Beth just got, or we just got, also is so important because now we get to hire a watershed coordinator. So just putting this effort, money, stuff, because really like I participate once every quarter in these meetings and stuff, but this really has good turn back for us. So I'm excited about this. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, actually, the grant that Maria was able to be successful with is a very competitive grant across the state. So huge kudos to Maria and the team for pulling that together. It was a very, very huge win for Cedar Falls and for the watershed. So that's really great news. So yeah, I'm actually just going to wrap it up here. I'd be happy to take any questions. Like I said, we do have some materials to leave with you all if you're interested in just diving further into what the Watershed Management Authority does. But we'd be happy to address any questions, or you could also feel free to route questions through Maria. She knows where to find us. So yeah, thank you again for your time. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, Mary Beth. And I would just second and say thank you, Maria, and the team for all the work on this. I think a lot of the conversations we've had internally is that we know there's going to be a growing need around water quality, flood management, and we want to make sure we're ahead of the curve and that we're ready when there's opportunities that come up, either for federal, state funding, that we're there to say, hey, we are ready and willing to do some of these projects and work on this. I mean, you spend enough time or just a little bit of time in this council and we're talking either water detention, flooding, something at some point with every project we have come up. So I think this is a good chance. And I know this specific one here in the Pinnacle Prairie area, like you see when we get a big rain, how much water ends up pooling up there. So these types of projects, again, thank you for the work, because that's a significant amount of money that we were able to get to work on a local project. So.
Yeah, and if I could add onto that, your point about having shovel-ready projects is so important, because we do frequently in the past several years have had to pass on grant opportunities because we didn't have those shovel-ready opportunities. So one of the things we're looking to do is develop 3 to 5 natural infrastructure projects. We are looking for ideas from the community. Mr. Pruckler has been one of our advocates, I would say, sharing information from his analysis on potential projects. So we'll be sharing that with our consulting engineer team, and they'll be doing some analysis to help us identify some projects that we think should have some real success. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that.
Any questions, comments, conversation from council?
Go ahead, Gil.
Yeah. I got to ask about nitrates. I haven't heard the word yet, but that's what we're all kind of dancing around. So, what are you finding, and how are we gonna get results from these? These are what people are asking me about.
Yeah. So, being from Cedar Rapids, nitrate is on our mind constantly. I will say the past 2 years have been we've seen very high concentrations of nitrate throughout the entire state of Iowa. And a lot of that is due to some of the precipitation patterns that we've seen. We've been in a drought phase over the past several years. It started raining again, which was great. But with that, we also saw a lot of flushing of nitrate from the soil profile. So we definitely saw elevated levels throughout the area. Through the Middle Cedar and Cedar Rapids, we've been doing ongoing watershed monitoring, tracking nitrate levels, and that's been a really powerful tool for us because we've been able to, I think I might actually have a slide. Let's see. Yeah, oh wow, look at that. Just in case
like
somebody asked about nitrate. Yeah, so what you're seeing here is a map of the Middle Cedar watershed. And you're looking at kind of the loading of nitrogen into our surface water bodies based on area. So the areas that are darker are showing higher rates of loading from the watershed, and then the lighter colored areas are showing less. So what this is giving us is a prioritization tool. It's helping us understand where we can cite water quality practices to have the most bang for our buck in terms of nitrate reduction. So nitrate isn't really a local issue, it's a watershed scale issue because it deals with runoff. And so in order for us to be effective at addressing nitrate, we really have to take a look at the watershed and where we're seeing the highest loading rates. So that's one reason why our monitoring has been just really powerful for us. We've been doing this since 2017. It's a little hard to see on the graph, but the graph next to the map, What that's showing is all of our average nitrate concentrations over every year of our sampling since 2017. The two lines that are most elevated are 2024 and 2025. So just to kind of give you a little bit of context as far as how monumental the nitrate concern has been just over the past couple of years. So yeah, so that's just kind of an interesting thing. But I will say nitrate is a huge priority of ours. We are actively working with Iowa Department of Ag and Land Stewardship on edge of field practices that are specifically designed to treat tile drainage. Tile drainage underlying farm fields is an important source of nitrate to source water or to surface waters. So the more that we can treat and address that farm runoff, I think the better that will be. So.
And I know one big thing for us is, you know, Des Moines is the one everyone hears about because it's the big city drawing straight from the river. They have to treat the water a lot. How this kind of relates to our aquifer. So we pull from the Depot aquifer. So thankfully we're kind of insulated from the just month by month schedule of runoff from the farm fields. Our Depot aquifer, you're talking tens to hundreds of years that it takes water to filter down into that. But this is the type of projects that we have to be looking at for the long-term health of the aquifer. So for our day-to-day, this isn't going to affect a whole lot because thankfully we're in a position where we've got a big aquifer, we've got very good drainage or filtration, but these are the things if we're not investing in this stuff in the long run and making sure we're doing it. And to your point, what we do here affects Cedar Rapids. And so everything that we can do here is also going to affect all the downstream effectiveness of that filtration, everything that's going down through the river, but also coming through the creeks. So it's a big system. And I do think, fortunately, we're in a decent spot. But if we don't continue to look out after our aquifer and the water quality in our area, we can't always depend on it being a great source.
Sorry, I just couldn't avoid sitting down. So, but I wanted to show you, since you mentioned the aquifer. So, just you're mentioning because of this study. So, Kelly, Dan, Mayor, and Chase and I went to this presentation. And we're just starting to figure out how we can use this, but definitely we have to think of aquifers and surface water for the nitrate. And for Mary Beth points of the agricultural importance of this, you can just see how much, this was for Cedar Rapids, correct? So, but it'll be pretty similar for any place in Iowa, definitely. Even though we're in an urban area, if we really want to solve these issues, we need to look at agricultural areas as well.
You can go back to the heat map, the brown color. Yep. So this was essentially a map that looks at those filtration rates of how quickly or how long it takes the water to filtrate down to the aquifer, overlaid with data about where are our wells at that we draw our city water from, where are their point sources, like septic tanks that maybe could have leakage. So this is really a map to help us prioritize making sure we're protecting where we're pulling our water from, or if we're going to site a new well, where should we put that to make sure we're drawing from the best possible location possible, or if we're seeing areas where we know maybe there's higher levels with worse filtration, what can we do to help support those areas? So this was just that presentation we had maybe 2 weeks ago, and they're starting to kind of put this data together so cities have more information to be able to prioritize. You know, we don't want to put in a new industrial facility right over top of the area that filters the water that's going to end up in our aquifer in a shorter time frame. So just helping us from a city policy standpoint ensure that whatever we do going forward is best protecting that aquifer and our water quality.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all of your work. I think the investment of less than $4,000 is, I feel like we're getting a real bargain for all that you're doing. So thank you. So I have a few things. First, you've touched on lots of things, so I don't mean this to be like disrespectful or anything, but you know, sometimes people want to know what exactly is that getting for Cedar Falls? Is there anything that comes to mind that's been done with our investment that we could say, yep, this is definitely helping the citizens or the community of Cedar Falls? Anything that comes to mind?
Well, I guess I would say that, you know, just being part of the overall watershed has been just really important. I would say we were able to partner with the Black Hawk Soil and Water Conservation District on a grant recently, and our annual, we're supporting them $10,000 a year to support their coordinator. So that really is the power of a WMA, is we serve as an umbrella organization. We want to support our local communities to help them be successful in getting grants. So as Maria mentioned, we'd also developed a letter of support for that urban stormwater wetland, and we'll be providing a lot of educational support on that. So that's, and as a matter of fact, at each meeting, we want to know what our communities are working on, how we can support them, because that's really what our role is. Our role is to help just get more projects on the ground.
Thank you. And then I'm just curious, you work in Cedar Rapids, correct?
I do. Mm-hmm.
What does Cedar Rapids do to help their situation? Are they working? I'm assuming they working towards the north is going to be most beneficial as the water comes down to the south. Am I wrong? And or what could we do, or what do you folks do?
Yeah, I mean, we deal with a lot of challenges. The nitrate concern is very pressing for us. It's something that we deal with regularly. We have a very different source water situation than you do here. Our source water is heavily influenced by water quality in the Cedar River itself. It's a shallow alluvial aquifer. So we definitely have the mindset of anything that we can be doing upstream to address nitrate not only helps us in terms of protecting our source water, but also helps us in terms of the flood reduction benefits. So I am very lucky in that I have a watershed-based job for City of Cedar Rapids. Not a lot of municipalities have a full-time watershed person. So that is one of the strategies that Cedar Rapids has taken, is just hiring a person to manage partnerships, write grants, try to get more resources on the ground. And that has a snowball effect, because the more time you spend, the more grants you get. People see that success and they want to be part of it and they want to support it. So I would say that's been a really important investment, is just hiring a staff person to think about watersheds 100% of the time. And I'd say also we just try to listen to concerns in the watershed. We're not trying to tell anybody what to do. We're not trying to tell farmers what to do, but we want to bring resources to the table to help people make educated decisions and support wise watershed land use decisions. So yeah, it's kind of a strategy and a mentality, I would say.
Okay. And then when we went to the presentation out at the conservation office the other day for the surface water and how it goes into the aquifer, one of the things I guess I want to know if you folks have any, and Maria was there, what could we do, or how could we use that information in the city? Or could we use that information in the city? One of the things somebody asked during that time was, and it was just a quick comment, was, well, if you're going, because I think basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was not all ground filters the same. Like some takes hundreds of years to filter through, but some of it may not take that long, and that's where we get ourselves into trouble. But how do we use that when we're developing, or how could we use that information that's been provided to us by the state of Iowa?
I'd go back to the comments that the mayor made, just as far as being able to make educated decisions about siting future development projects. Those areas that are providing a lot of infiltration value are the areas that maybe you want to put into some sort of protective use. Maybe you don't put a lot of like pavement on top of it, for example. Maybe it's more of a natural area. I'm just kind of spitballing here. I don't know exactly, but yeah, I think really the point of doing this is making more educated decisions down the road in terms of your land use planning and things like that. So it's just a tool that helps you make decisions down the road. And understand what the ramifications might be for development projects that you have going on.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I hope that answers your
No,
question.
that is what they kind of mentioned. She mentioned, well, if you're going to develop an area that's maybe if the water's not slow, then maybe you put a park there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Obviously, we all know that also takes policy and sticking to the policy. Last, I just want to echo and thank Maria for all her work. I appreciate her position. I know it's not an easy position because you definitely hear pushback even to the council side from folks that are told, no, that is against our policy. So I'm very grateful for your work, Maria. Thank you for securing that grant. I am excited for the new, what am I trying to say? The Coneflower Green Hill area. So I'm very thankful for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Maria, do you know with that project, will we have, like, in the funding, are we able to do any educational signage or anything out as part of that?
Yes, we're planning on it.
Okay, super. Nice bike trail that goes right by there. Any other thoughts, conversation from council? Okay, otherwise, thank you again for making the trip up and coming out.
Well, thanks to all of you. I really just want to emphasize that your support over the years has been really instrumental in our success. So just look forward to future partnership and looking forward to potentially crossing paths with some of you at one of Maria's educational events. So thank you all so much. Have a great evening and hope to see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
guys. And otherwise, I will call us. I never remember. Do we need a motion to adjourn committee? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion seconded. Anyone opposed? And I'm assuming that means everyone's in favor.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We will be back here at 7 o'clock for our regularly scheduled city council meeting.